Mike Garafolo is at the airport. I think he's walking through the security line, and he joins us. Mike Garafolo of the NFL Network in the airport. This is a walk and talk interview with Garafolo. How are you, Mike?
I'll sit down eventually. My flight's delayed, so there's no rush. So I won't take you through security with me.
Okay. Well, I don't think you can. I don't think you can go through security
on the phone.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think that's allowed.
They frown upon that?
I think they do.
Not do that?
I'm pretty sure you can. Mike Garafolo joins us, NFL Network. It's brought to you by Hartley & Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. For honesty, fairness, and integrity, contact our good man, Jamie Hartley, at 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, the perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, catch the game. Check out Zogs on Facebook and Instagram for fall hours and event times. Were you on the West Coast, now you're going back home?
Yeah, I'm in L.A. And the escalator, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. The escalator up is broken, and I know I've done this before. I've gone inside, and then they say, no, the escalator up is outside. So let me just get inside and find a place to sit so you don't have to listen to buses.
This is,
like
I mean,
you know?
I want, well, it's kind of like TMZ, and I just kind of want to watch you get out of breath, is really what I want to say.
All right, here we go. We're inside. We're gonna take a seat, and we'll do it stationary here.
All right.
So hit your first question while I'm walking.
What was the experience like in LA? Why were you out in LA?
So it started with me saying, Good Morning Football 2.0 has been on for a couple of months. I'm like, I haven't done the show. I used to do the show a bunch when it was in New York. And I said, I'm happy to pop in. Let's just stand over here. And do it in New York because we've got a coast to coast show now. We've got some folks in New York, some folks in LA. And I said, I'm happy to just pop into the studio right across the river. And they said, well, why don't you come out for a couple of days? And when we booked it, we realized it was the trade deadline week, which is fine because I got to be in the studio the entire day, not be disrupted by kids. It actually wound up working out perfectly because doing all that, like free agency every year, my wife, I got to remind her, she forgets how the NFL calendar works. But, like, I'm there, but I'm not there. Like, for 3 days, I am not available. You can see me through the window of my office, but that's about it. The trade deadline, she's not aware of that yet. I really have to kind of break that to her at some point. So it was good to be out here to be able to do it. I was on every show. I was in the office for 16 hours that day. But we had some fun.
Is she aware of what you do?
No. Well, every year. So let's say training camp.
Yeah.
And we got, 2.5 weeks of NFL inside training camp on NFL Network. And she's like, well, how long? Wait, 2 weeks? That's a long time. We do this every year. I know, but I forget. Well, is that my fault? You forgot. Like, put it on your calendar. She's aware, but she's not a fan, which is fine. I don't need her to be a fan. I mean, I think it would kind of be annoying at times to be, right before bed. So what do you think the Seahawks are going to do in the offseason? You think they bring Geno?
Well, I mean, that's a little bit of foreplay, Mike. Everybody gets in. What are the Seahawks going to do in the offseason? Whoa, did you say Seahawks?
Hold on. When I first I'm watching SportsCenter or something, right? And she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Why are you watching sports?" I was like, "Because I like it." She goes, "Well, I don't watch CNBC when I come home." She's in financials.
Yeah.
That's on you, man.
Yeah, well, no one wants to watch that. Why the hell would you want to watch that? No one wants to watch the CNBC financials. Yeah. All right, well, we're through the trade deadline. Listen, we talked last week about DK Metcalf. You said, hey, listen, he's not going to get traded. Yeah, the phone calls, and there was people that probably wanted to pry him away or at least, kick the tires on it. He ultimately did not. And then, there was a reaction to some in this town of like, oh, here it is. It's national media people making up a story about something that didn't exist. And I kind of like, well, did it not exist? Like, how does anybody truly know that it existed or did not exist? I mean, there's like Are you in John Schneider's room? I mean, do you know exactly what was transpiring? Yeah. You made it very clear last week that, listen, they weren't going to deal him, but also, hey, who knows if someone blows you away with, a crazy amount of draft picks. Do we know how many people tried to call the Seahawks about him? And I mean, there was a market for wide receivers, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the story was first presented as the Seahawks are receiving calls on DK Metcalf. All right, fine, but are they going to act on it? And that's why you asked me about it, and I was told that they're not going to act on it. It turned out in the end that they didn't act on it, so that wound up being accurate information. I just talk about my wife again. Yeah. Hey, this guy was flirting with me. Well, did you do anything about it? No. Okay, right. Then we're fine. No problem, right? Construction workers catcalling you? Fine, no problem. Right. You just keep walking. That's basically what happened in this situation. So the question now is, what's the long-term plan as he goes into his contract year next year? If I've got my contract information correct, you can stop me if I'm wrong. 2025 is the last year of his deal. Yep. If I'm not mistaken. You got it. Okay. All right. So that'll be now, because he's not going to want to go on the last year of his deal. And this could be something that lasts all the way up to training. This could be Jamar Chase didn't do his deal. Let's call it CD Lamb. This could be, CD Lamb, where you're in training camp and who knows, maybe he doesn't show up and, or it's a hold in or something like that. I mean, if it lasts that long, there'll be pressure points along the way. Start of the season, start of the league year in March, off-season workouts, mini camp, okay. There'll be plenty of points for this to get done, but I think that's going to be your storyline there in Seattle this upcoming offseason.
And again, we've talked a lot about DK Metcalf, and we talked a lot about a contract. Listen, I don't want to get rid of him. I like DK. I mean, he's not a perfect player, but there's not a perfect person. No one is perfect. But I mean, listen, for a team that feels, Mike, a lot further away from a championship than closer. At least that's what, like boots on the ground. That's what it feels like here. Would it be wise to go into and sign him to a lengthy contract at his age? I mean, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, that's probably what we're talking about, right? That's in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 years, $140 million guaranteed. Does it make sense for an organization to do that when there are so many holes on this football team, specifically on the offensive line?
How far away are they, though? I mean, these holes on the offensive line. If Abe Lucas comes back and he's healthy and Charles Cross stays healthy, you've got two cornerstone tackles here. You can fill it in via the draft and free agency. You've got guys that are being drafted. Zach Frazier for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they drafted him and right away felt good about him contributing immediately. How far away are they? I mean, they're a competitive team right now. They've got the makings of a really good head coach. I would just say we can go up and down the roster.
Sure.
The quarterback position, to me, is where I have my questions, right? We've had this discussion before. Are you winning a Super Bowl with Geno Smith? Probably not. Are you making the playoffs? Yeah, you're making the playoffs. Are you winning the Super Bowl? So that, to me, is when you make the move there, whether it's a high draft pick or whatnot, now that's a championship caliber position or it's not a championship caliber position.
Well, I guess, yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, I think the worry here for a lot of people is this. They have, is great a job that John Schneider has done, along with Pete Carroll over the years, of constructing a team for the last 15 years and made them championship caliber for the most part of the tenure. One thing in the last decade that they have failed on is, and again, I'm not going to knock him for Abe Lucas. I mean, that's an injury. And so Abe Lucas looked like he was on the right path, and I think Charles Cross is on the right path. He's playing good. Yep. But it's the interior of their offensive line they have continued to fail at. And so I don't know. I think there's great doubt here in this town of whether or not they can ever fix it, because it's been 10 years and they haven't been able to do it.
I mean, at some point, yeah, there are. I've seen that with teams from time to time. It's like, why can't you just? You're really good about. Why can't you just get this position right? And sometimes it's the quarterback position, which is a real problem. Yeah. I remember that Bears, Ryan Pace's Bears. They were so good. 52 of the 53 spots in the roster. Mitchell Trubisky at the quarterback position, drafted incredibly highly, eventually fired. Like, it's just you can't duck that forever. These are things that should be fixable in free agency, again via the draft. Like, it's just the harder part. I just went over this the other day with somebody. They said, when was the last fourth round, high level, Hall of Fame caliber. I mean, maybe I'm going too far, but the last time a fourth round offensive tackle was like left tackle, and I was like, they're either first round picks, highly drafted first round picks, or seventh round / undrafted projects. Jason Peters, converted tight end. Jordan Mailata, rugby guy that the Eagles converted. Because that's why you have to do that late and into undrafted free agency. Look for the guy who's never played football before or whatever, or changing positions, and he's got the ability to do that. So it's a lot harder to do that at the tackle position than it is interior. Second day of the draft is usually where you can get some really good interior draft picks. So they got to get to work on that.
I mean, I think. You're obviously familiar with the organization. I think from a personal standpoint, I mean, how much internal pressure maybe is on John, because again, he's doing this now without, and whoever, I don't know the information of who had the final say and all that kind of stuff. It seemed like they worked together on all these deals, but for the first time in his professional career, right, he is overseeing all of it. It's his call. There's got to be a lot of personal and professional pressure to make it work on him.
Well, how much runway do you give him before you start to say that, though, right? If you really truly believe that he didn't have final say during his time with Pete Carroll, which he didn't, but obviously they worked well enough together, and Pete had enough trust in him to allow him to do as much as, or not as much as, but most of what he wanted to do. You got to now sit there and say, well, you can't make a call like that or put the pressure on him after just 1 year, especially because, and listen, he's a victim of his own success in that, I've told you this before, you got to be in position to draft a quarterback. Again, I think that's the big key component that's missing from this roster. And you got to be bad to do that. They just haven't been that bad. The 1 year they were bad was the Jamal Adams trade, right, where that pick went to the Jets instead. If I'm recalling, what number pick was that? 6?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would say at some point he is fully in charge. And back to your question about internal pressure, ownership sided with him last year, right? I mean, it was coach, GM, and not that there was some kind of coup to oust Pete Carroll or anything like that, but there were conversations had, and instead of making it a clean break, it was, we're going to change the head coach. We still believe in what John Schneider has done and can do for this organization.
Yeah. And then I think he's going to get this year, he's going to get next year, but you kind of alluded to it, there eventually will be a time where it's like, okay, we gave you the reins and it didn't turn out like we thought it was going to turn out, right? I mean, but that happens in all walks of life, in all walks of businesses.
But they're not there yet. I mean, it's the first year.
Yeah, you're right.
This is going to be a big offseason for John Schneider. There's no doubt about it. Like, you need to put Mike a stamp on this team that fits with what Mike McDonald wants to do, and that's going to be the big. They started to get some pieces last year, but now it's really, what do you need? Who do you need? Who are you comfortable with that or in the draft as well, that we can sort of fit what you want to do from a defensive standpoint and a culture standpoint.
You ever think, and Mike Garafolo is with us from the LAX airport. We're going to hold him here as long as we can, because I just want to see if all these workouts he's been doing is going to allow him to hold this phone up for, again, 10 more minutes or so.
I'm switching arms. You can see me switching arms, right?
I can. Do you think they would get – I just brought this up before you came on, just looking at their schedule right now. I mean, you got the 49ers coming up, who they may or may not – we'll get into McCaffrey, whether or not he's going to be back or not. Then after that, you got the Cardinals coming at home. Cardinals are playing better football. And then you got to go at New York. And listen, you got to travel all across the country. They're going to be underdogs in probably all three of these games. If they end up losing all three, do they transition at all? You don't hear this a lot in the NFL, not like baseball. Do they get into we need to get into a rebuild mode in the offseason?
I don't think it's a rebuild mode. I don't think that they're at that point. And again, if it was a rebuild thing, they would have dealt DK at the trade deadline, and they didn't. And not that to say they can't do it in the offseason if they wanted to do it at that point. And maybe they start to have contract talks and you don't like where it's going. We saw that with Tyreek Hill. At some point, the Chiefs were like, forget it. He wants too much. Let's just ship him out. We'll make do. And they did. So it's not to say that it can't happen before the start of the season, but if they were already there, they would have done it. I can't imagine that all of a sudden if they don't make the playoffs, it's a different mindset. So I think that they try to capitalize on the early success that they had this year and, make sure it lasts. It sort of reminds me of where the Cardinals were last year. Jonathan Gannon comes in as head coach. They were really good early in the season, really competitive early in the season. Then they had a big-time lull in the middle. And then at the end, they still didn't win games, but they felt like they were playing harder and they were playing smarter. That is starting to pay off now in the second year. So I would think that that's sort of the path that you want to be on if things don't go well this offseason. Just continue to believe in what you're doing and in your new head coach and start to, again, give him the personnel that makes sense for him.
I think we talked about this at the time. But Mike McDonald didn't have much of a say or interaction like in the offseason, right, when he was hired, like combine, draft, and things like that. Do you think that he'll be more involved this offseason?
He didn't. What makes you say he didn't?
Well, but he didn't go to the combine, right? Wasn't that like a big deal last year that he didn't go?
Yeah, because he was hired. But a lot of teams don't go. I mean, teams that have veteran coaches don't. Okay. Sean McVay never goes. That's a new thing with the evaluate. It's not valuable for our time. But he was involved. I mean, he was involved in the free agent process, the draft process. Again, I would if I'm John, that's my biggest thing. All right, let me understand, or I should understand now fully what you're about after spending a year with you. Now let me match guys that match both your scheme and your personality and your culture.
Yeah. Have they begun already, or do you wait until when do you? Well, because he's a free agent. Do you expect something to happen with Ernest Jones before we get out of the season?
I don't know. Possible, but I would think it's more of an off-season type thing. I mean, they're going to get him in-house, and they like him. I know they like him. You see what he's about, and you see, it only helps him, by the way, if he plays and shows out, and all of a sudden I can go in the off-season and say, hey, you traded for me. I played well. We can now address something after the season, or maybe it's late in the season. It's one of those things where a team, if they do a deal before the end of the regular season, we've seen that not so much recently, but we saw it in the relatively recent past, where it helps them put some of it on this year's cap if they've got the space to be able to do that. So you could see something like that. We'll see.
How are the arms holding up?
I'm hanging.
Trade surprises. Did anything surprise you? That a trade that was made or a trade that wasn't made?
I thought Azeez Ojulari with the Giants, the pass rusher, was being traded at some point because I thought I knew that the Giants weren't going to just give him away. I just thought at some point somebody would offer a fifth or something like that, and they never did. I mean, they wanted him for a sixth or a seventh, and the Giants said, no, it's not worth it to us. We'd rather hang on and see if we can re-sign him in the offseason, which I don't think they're going to. That's going to be a guy that's going to make a ton of money because I think he's going to wind up double-digit sacks. He's had 8 in a season before, so this is a guy who's going to make he's going to be this year's Bryce Huff that signed with the Eagles for a ton of money. 3 years, 51, I want to say. So Azeez Ojulari not getting dealt was a surprise. Mike Williams, we knew from the time that Devontae Adams was dealt that was going to happen. Maybe I was surprised, at the time, Preston Smith, but then you go back and you realize it was actually in the works for a couple of weeks. Trying to think of what other one. But and listen, the Preston Smith one.
What about the Lattimore one?
I guess I was surprised because when Dennis Allen was fired, first of all, Lattimore and Dennis Allen did not have a great relationship. So he gets fired, and then the Saints sources that we spoke to were adamant, hey, this is not going to be a teardown. And then they traded one of their best players the next day. But the return, getting a third-round pick is as part of that deal, no first-round pick has been dealt yet. Matter of fact, I had our research team check the other day. First time since 2001, we've gotten through the trade deadline with no first-round picks being dealt. Now, a lot of times that happens in the previous offseason. Somebody makes a trade to draft a quarterback. They give up 2 first-round picks. So it's it sort of carries out a couple of years in advance. This is the first time we've gotten to this far where all 32 teams are holding their first-round pick for next year. Only 3 second-round picks have traded hands. Now, it could be a 4th for Devontae Adams, but it doesn't look like he's got to be an all-pro, and they got to make the Super Bowl. So right now, to get a day 2 pick and a third-round pick, they really couldn't turn that down. So, yeah, I would say I would have expected him to not be moved, but they got the action late, and it happened.
It's amazing the Commanders. I mean, they must have surprised themselves that they were in this position to pull off a move like that.
Yeah,
heading into this year.
And they're now sending a message to their locker room and to their fan base. I mean, everything is really about we've been waiting for these days and we're not going to take them for granted. I mean, that's literally what Terry McLaurin said when I interviewed him after the game. I don't take these days for granted. He's been around for such worse days. But it's the fact that you've got a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract that's playing well. It affords you for the first 3 years of his career to be able to be more aggressive in other areas. And they're doing that right now. Because then once you give him the big contract extension, it's going to be tough to spend money elsewhere. Because by the time he gets his deal, it's going to be like $70 million a year. We're already at 60. So they're doing that right now. They're saying we're not waiting for the offseason. We're going to do that right now. We're not playing with house money. We've got the chance to compete. We're going to do that right now.
Hey, go back. I want to go back to the Seahawks for just a quick second. You mentioned it. Hey, listen, I think the biggest offseason question mark is going to be Geno Smith. Can you, and I've referenced this before you came on, can you look up in the rafters and see his image, on Super Bowl Media Day? And I think most people here say, yeah, no, they can't. Okay, yeah. if they don't bring him back, I mean, what options do they have? And this does tie into DK because if they decide Geno's not the guy, then I don't see why it's worth spending the money on DK Metcalf because now you're a couple years away from doing anything because you don't have a quarterback. Because Sam Howell doesn't appear to be the guy, and if you draft a guy, well then that's going to bring its own bumps, and that's going to take a few years. So where would they go? Where would they turn their attention?
I think this quarterback class, from what I heard, these quarterbacks have not really lit the world on fire, so this may not be as top-heavy. They may be available through the first round, so if you're somewhere in the middle of the first round, you get a little bit aggressive and get up. Like a Mahomes-type situation where it's back end of the Josh Allen. We've had so many quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at some point, and Michael Penix could be a good example, I guess. But I think this could be the year that they finally decide we got to make a move, we got to get somebody. So that's an option, obviously. Free agency wise, I mean, Sam Darnold's not going to do it for me. I wouldn't, and that doesn't strike me as one that John Schneider would be like, well, we can get Sam.
Yeah.
I think everybody understands that he's sort of in that same category of maybe get you to the playoffs in the right situation, but not going to win you a Super Bowl. So I think Seahawks around draft time could be interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's not. I mean, two quarterbacks in his tenure that he's drafted. That's it.
Yep.
Russell Wilson and Alex Magoo.
Magoo, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Alex freaking Magoo. Hey, what are the Panthers doing? Why would you?
No idea.
I don't get it. I don't get this. Why are they signing Chuba Hubbard to a contract extension?
Well, first of all, there's no guarantee that Jonathan Brooks is, coming back from the ACL is going to be the same, right? That's number one. But number two, he's going to be a free agent. It's about what he would probably make on the market. But I don't know. I gave you the reason, but also, and there's no question in my mind. They're playing in Germany. They're in a big spotlight this week. The owner wanted it done now. Like, give me something good here. No question.
How serious is the Prescott injury? He's taking some heat. Get out back on the field. Now your reports coming out it's being pulled off, the hamstring's being pulled off the bone. God, like it's been in some slow cooker for God's sakes.
No, right. It sounds delicious.
It does. Is there nothing better than like whatever type of meat you like a pork shoulder, putting it in a slow cooker, letting it sit for like 9 hours, and then going back in there and just pulling it all off? God, it's so good.
Yeah, when you say fall off the bone, people love that.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, no, it's bad. It's could be a season. Really.
Wow.
I mean, it sounds like it's going to be 4 weeks plus, and then there could be surgery involved. So if Dak Prescott doesn't play again, and now look, at this point, I got to see Trey Lance.
That's why I don't understand. Why? Let's see if he can play.
Well, you're still in that. Maybe we hang on for a couple of weeks and he comes back because he's getting all the medical evaluations. But once he's done, even if it's just regular IR, even if it's 4 weeks, which it sounds like that's at very least it's going to be that, I got to see him out there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, what are we doing? So, and I heard, the development hasn't been necessarily what they would have hoped to this point. So, but I don't know. I'm not there watching practice every day.
Lamar's availability tonight. He's in, right?
Yeah, he's good to go. He's good to go. Isaiah Likely's out for the Ravens. Keaton Mitchell, the running back. What time is it? He's going to be activated sometime soon, I believe.
Okay.
So he'll make his. Remember how dynamic he was last year. Orlando Brown, the tackle for the Bengals against his former team, does not sound like he's going to be able to play. That's a tough loss for Cincinnati. Who else? There was another. T. Higgins is doubtful. That's not happening.
Okay.
Feel like I missed one, but that's about it.
Christian McCaffrey, do you think he plays against Seattle?
I do. Oh, wait.
So, really?
No, wait. I think he plays this week.
Yeah, who the Niners got this week?
I don't know. It's not Seattle. They're in a bye.
I got it. I'll look it up. So you think he'll play this week, huh?
Yes, I believe he's going to play this week. I do. Yep.
The Niners are at Tampa Bay. Okay.
I knew that one. Yes. And then look, it's Jordan Mason affords you and Garendo affords you the luxury of not having to play him more than 10 to 15 snaps if you don't want to. Yeah. But apparently everything has gone incredibly well. I believe he's going to be out there.
Boy, this in-season and off-season workouts that you've been doing is really paying off. I mean, it's just the arms. You're doing a smooth transition, left arm to right arm to hold up the phone while at the airport. It really is one of the most incredible athletic feats I've seen this year.
Saquon Barkley leaping a defender? Mike holding up his phone for a half an hour at the
it's amazing. It's amazing. Hey, how many openings do you think? I love, it's crazy because the NFL.
I thought you were done too.
No, I'm not done. I'm not. I got a couple more that I'm done. There's so much. The league is so much about parity, right, Mike? And there's usually most teams are kind of still in it. This year, I mean, God, there's so many teams that with 2 wins, they're done.
And my joke.
And it's over. I
was slowly dropping the camera to be like, well, let's let this guy go.
How
many coaching openings?
How many openings? Jets, Browns, Jags, Raiders, Giants, Bears. Who am I missing?
I don't know about the Raiders. We'll see.
Oh, really?
Browns. I will see about the Browns too as well. Okay. So what were the other ones? Jets,
Jags, Giants, and Bears.
No, Giants are not firing him.
Really?
Brian Dable. Yeah, Brian Dable staying.
Okay. Bears for sure, right? They're going to make
Cowboys,
a move, aren't they?
Cowboys. Bears are going to make a move. Yeah, Bears is going to make a move. Cowboys. You said the Saints. They're already done.
Oh, I did not mention the Saints. I forgot about the Saints.
Yeah, Saints are already done. Geez, I'm trying to remember. I think got me going through the divisions in my head.
All right, that's fine. I think we've covered it. Who is going to be is there going to be a hot college name out there that everyone's going to want? Oh, we got to interview that guy.
Who's the guy in Iowa State? He used to come up every single Matt Campbell.
Matt Campbell every time.
Every single year. But it stopped for a while because then now they're not undefeated anymore, right? They're 7-1 now. So he'll be mentioned. Chip Kelly's going to try to get his name in there.
No, he is not. The Chipster's going to get back.
Not as a head coach. He tried last year. He was almost the head, which frankly he would have been a better coordinator than Getsy for the Raiders. He was the runner-up.
Wasn't he trying to angle for the Commanders' job?
Chip?
Like offensive coordinator? Wasn't he trying to be with Dan Quinn?
He almost was It was Cliff Kingsbury, Chip Kelly, Luke Getsy, and Kingsbury took it, then turned it down. So they went to Chip, and by the time they went to Chip, I think he already had Ohio State in the works or something. And so they went with Getsy as number. So he would have been the Raiders coordinator if they picked him. And he was in the mix, I think, in Washington too. Yeah.
So he wants to get back into the NFL, but as a coordinator.
No, I mean, I'm sure he'd love to be a head coach, but he wanted to leave UCLA as a head coach to be a coordinator in the NFL. All these head coaches are like, I can't stand this. This is nonstop all year round. They get like 1 month of a break from the NIL garbage.
Okay, what about?
By the way, it's not. Let me not garbage. In their mind, it's garbage.
Well, no, I know.
Paid.
I know what you're saying. I get it. Lincoln Riley, Deion Sanders. Will their names be brought up in the NFL circles?
100%. No question. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know.
All right.
But Deion would be fun. If you said to me, covering Deion as a head coach, and I used to do a show with Deion. Deion loves me. Let's bring him to the
did?
NFL. Let's have
okay,
fun.
wait a minute.
No,
on the NFL Network?
Yeah, it was called 21st and Prime. It was a corner of 21st and Prime.
Oh, I remember that.
Prime. And I was the news guy. They're like, we got to have a news guy come in at the start of the show. So Amber Theo Harris hosted it, and I would come in as the news guy, and we would, and I'd give and then he'd give my take on what news I was delivering, and we taped it every Tuesday. And he was like, Mikey G, I like you, Mikey G, I like you, Mikey G. I was like, all right, Prime, what's up, man? Cool.
I gotta find where I'm now. All I'm doing right now is looking up. I'm trying to find pictures of you guys doing the show together.
Now here's the question:
21st and Prime.
Here's the question: does Prime remember that I was part of the show that he did every week?
No, but he would lie and say he does.
Good. I don't care. Humor me.
All right, last thing before your arms fall off, okay? And then we're done. And it's non-football question, but I want to ask you as a journalist and as people that don't know, Mike he's worked everywhere, right? You see him on TV, but he worked in sports radio. He was a long time, worked in the newspaper industry. He's covered it all. There's a story that hit in your town, the city you grew up in, Philadelphia, right? With Marcus Hayes. I'm just curious your opinion on it. I've talked a lot about it this week, and I know Joel Embiid's going to get killed for what's going on and all of that. But there has got to be a line for journalists and a columnist that you cannot cross. And when you start mentioning family members, have you crossed that line? And I'm just wondering if there was, from a journalist standpoint, how did you feel about how that storyline and how it developed?
Like push comes to shove, I would say it didn't need to be. You didn't need to make the connection between a family member that passed on and a performance in the basketball court. But I understand the point. The point was, he's playing for things that are bigger than him, and he's got pride, and he's saying all this stuff. Well, let's see it be put on the line. Let's see that legacy that you want to leave. Let's see you fight through some stuff that you have to be able to fight through. So I get it, but I don't think that, like, reading those 2 paragraphs in the story, if I was editing the story, I'd say, you don't need this first paragraph to make the point in the second one.
Yeah.
And you can just say, like, hey, he wants to leave a legacy. Okay, wants to leave a legacy? Got to be on the court to do that, and we're not here. We're not having this conversation if you just, So I do understand where he was coming from, Marcus. I'd say he probably shouldn't have, but I'm not as far across that line it's not, in my mind, not as far across that line as maybe some other people think.
You ever get a player ever get confrontational with you?
Yes.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was ever personal.
Physical? Did anyone ever get physical?
No, but I thought Shockey was going to hit me one day.
Oh, Jeremy Shockey.
I thought Jeremy Shockey was
when you were covering the Giants for the Daily News, right?
For the Star Ledger.
Jersey.
Yeah. Because he said something after a game. The guy was coming from the other team, and he turned back and was like, "What?" But I so I asked him about it. I didn't want to be like, "Oh, this guy said something," and not find out what the context was. And he was like, "No. I know him. He's." But instead of just saying it that way, I was like, "Oh, look, I'm just trying to." And as I was trying to explain, I was just trying to get clarity. Like, you should be thanking me for asking you instead of just writing what I thought I saw. And he was like, up. And finally the PR guy, oh, all right, we're done here. I said, all right, good. I think you just you stopped the line of questioning, but I think you just saved me from getting my face bashed in. Jabril will, I know what it was. Oh, okay, so this is good. Actually, this is a good one. Okay. So, Antrell Roll signs with the Giants as a free agent.
Yeah.
And he goes on the radio. He's got a weekly radio hit with WFAN. And a weekly TV hit with SNY, not hosted, but I did the 3-question interview. And every week on Tuesday, he would go say something controversial on WFAN. And then on Wednesday, I would be Mr. Put the toothpaste in the tube back in. I'd ask him the same stuff. And he'd be, well, no, I didn't mean that. I was just kind of saying it. He's one of these guys, like, he would say something, and then when there's backlash for it, be, like, upset that there's backlash for what he said on the radio. So, and I hated that I was cleanup guy. I hated it. But anyway, through the first couple of weeks, So I go, you know what? I'm going to write a big blowout feature on this guy. I'm going to give you the why he's so outspoken. So I did a whole thing about him and his family. Matter of fact, I went to the house after practice on Friday, his new apartment, and his mother was there setting up the new apartment, and she had opinions on everything. And so I painted this picture of, he comes from a family of people who speak their mind. It was a great story. I'm, to this day, still very proud of it. But like 20 inches into the story, I quote her as saying he's having no fun. Like, oh, this is why he's having no fun over there, because Tom Coughlin's a hard ass. A quote. Like, not even I wrote. Like, it was just a quote. And I didn't, like, blow it up in the top of the story and put it in the headline. Like, it was 20 inches into the story. Well, Pro Football Talk grabs that quote. Intro roll's mom. He's having no fun playing for Tom Coughlin. They play the game. They win the game. I'm outside the locker room. Phone rings. Antrell Roll's mother. I didn't say it. Mrs. Roll, you said that. But you didn't have to, like, put it in the headline. I said I didn't put it in the headline. I put it in my story. They grabbed it. That's on them. You got to go call them and talk to them. But I didn't say he was having no. So we're going in circles. Okay, Mrs. Roll, I'm sorry. I'm happy to play the tape for you. Come find me. She never did. Obviously, whatever. Next day, he's looking for me. I'm like, dude. He goes, you can't put that crazy stuff of my mom saying in the paper. I'm like, I'm writing the story, and nobody thought like he's having no fun. But obviously, he and Coughlin were butting heads. Anyway, we patch it up. And then down the line, I reference it again, and he just, you're done. I'm like, okay. All right, fine. So
I love it.
Also, I'll give you one more quick one.
Yeah.
So 2005, I no Blackberries, no nothing. You got your cell phone. That's it.
Yeah.
I write my story in Green Bay. The Giants are 3-1 or 4-1. Nobody expected them to be. It was an off season of turmoil, and I'm just starting out on the beat. Just starting out. So I write a story, file it, fly home, right from the airport, right to the locker room for Monday access. Sean O'Hara is waiting at the door for me. Okay, I go. Yeah. He goes, how could you call us a whiny bunch of malcontents? And I was like, what? He goes, you wrote in the paper that we're a whiny bunch of... It's like, no, Sean, I'm Mike from the Star. I know who you are. I was like, and I realized my editor had rewritten my story. It was like the third time he had done that, because his style, he used to cover the team, and his style was very brash, confrontational.
Yeah.
And if he felt like I wasn't going hard enough in some areas, he would rewrite the copy. So I go back to it, and I call it up, and I was like, oh, my God, none of this is mine. Like, he just rewrote the whole story. So I call him, and I was like, listen, here's the deal. And he's, by the way, I got to put this out there, one of the most amazing editors you would ever want to work with. He's awesome. His instincts are unbelievable. He's got great ideas. But I just said to him, like, I can't walk in there and have no idea what they're talking, as they're waiting for it. Okay, all right, I won't do that as much. I said, but listen, if you feel like I'm not, let me know. Call me. Hey, we need to do more. Okay, we can talk about it. But like, I can't be a surprise to me while I'm walking in the locker room. Sean and I still laugh about that to this day.
I didn't know you could, like, an editor could actually change, like, actually what was in the story.
Yeah, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's without talking to you first.
Well, that was my biggest thing. Was like, dude, I can't even defend my stuff. I don't even know what's going on. You know, and he did after that. He was. But again, a great editor. Let me make that clear, because I said this on a podcast once, and he heard it, and he's like, "Can I get my 2 minutes to respond?" I was like, "Oh, dude, I didn't." So I got to put that disclaimer. Kevin Manahan is his name. He's unbelievable. He was then my editor at USA Today. He hired me over there quickly, and then I left the week before the Aaron Hernandez thing, and he had to cover it. So he was breaking stories left and right. The local news people were losing their minds because he was just an unbelievable reporter. He was a bulldog. He's great.
I couldn't find any of you all together, but there's Dion right there. 21st and Prime, Amber Theoris. Right? I know, but none were like all three of you were together.
There's got to be a clip out there, no?
Yeah. I remember that. I forgot that he used to work for you guys at the network. Totally forgot that.
A prominent role at our place, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I've held you long enough, man. You did a great job. Okay? Keep those workouts, buddy. Keep those workouts. You're the best, Mike. We'll see you next week.
Be home with you every week from the airport. Love you, Puck. See you, buddy.
See you, bud. There he is. Mike Garafolo, NFL Network. I love that guy to death. It's all brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. For honesty, fairness, and integrity, contact Jamie Hartley, 253-565-8700. Also contact Zogs on Fox Island. They're another one of the sponsors. Duh. Big win there for Andrew Herzog's Oregon Ducks. And he was sending me pictures left and right from Ann Arbor. The man did it open to close. He was just drinking his life away there for the Ducks. Zogs on Fox Island, great place to watch the game, grab a cold beer, hang out with friends. Zogs on Facebook and Instagram for their new fall hours and times. Mike Garafolo with us every Thursday from the Puck Sports Studios, built by the one and only Limback Lumber. Big thanks to Limback Lumber for sponsoring the studios. Big thanks to Hartley and Hartley Insurance and Zogs on Fox Island. In case you missed Mike's episode, it'll be up on YouTube. Also to watch and view Puck Sports there. Also on Apple and Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, every videos, audio, everything up at pucksports.com, including signing up for the Pucks Posse membership there as well. Everything up at pucksports.com.